This episode of the ZuLoo Poodcast is sponsored by ZuLoo Inc., a benefit corporation dedicated to the goal of universal access to toilets, hygiene, clean water and sanitation through the power of social enterprise. Learn more at ZuLoo.com.
Because I'm just gonna start going up to people in the street like, snap pole, you ball it or fold it, you know. But I have been thinking that I should be folding it because I did it the other day and I was like, I think this is better.
This is better the way.
You know, but balling it is kind of wild.
It's gonna be your pillow talk with your wife tonight. You gotta go home and ask her. I mean, do you even know that about her?
People get divorced over that very issue.
I'm sure. You know.
Does she know that about you? Does she know that you're a baller?
She knows I want to say something. I want to swear, but she knows I'm a baller. I drive a minivan. Of course I'm a baller.
Welcome to the ZuLoo Poodcast, where we talk all things poop, toilets, and sanitation. Through insightful news, impact stories, and quirky humor, we aim to discuss and highlight the critical role toilets play in whisking poop out of our lives, the impact toilets have, or lack thereof, in the health and wellness of humanity, and what ZuLoo is doing to help solve the current global sanitation crisis.
Hey everybody, welcome to the ZuLoo Poodcast. Very excited to have you listening along today. We've got some fun content, some really educational content. We're going to be talking about Rose George, listening to snippets of her TED Talk, her wisdom from on high. We really love and admire.
We love her.
/ mildly worship Rose George.
Wow.
So
hashtag Rose George.
Very excited.
Come on the podcast.
Yeah, we Toilet Idols.
We've started.
We've had World Toilet Organization King Mr. Toilet on the show twice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about time
that
Rose
the Queen
next. Comes on.
Queen comes on.
That's why we keep pushing her book for no compensation whatsoever. Rose George's book, and that's kind of what we wanted to talk about.
Well, we need to know if Rose, you need to come on the podcast because we need to know, are you a front wiper or a back wiper? I don't know if you specify that in your book, but we need to know, and the world needs to know.
Yeah, well, there's actually, on the very last page.
What? She shows us?
In the smallest print.
There's a footnote. Footnote 722.
Independence.
No, I don't think she goes that.
I don't think she goes into personal detail.
She does share some personal stories because she traveled the globe, looking at different toilet situations. She has very personal stories in here. Mm-hmm. Not that specific, but still. I
might not read it.
But that's probably the next book.
Right? Next book is from front to back. Yeah.
That'd actually be a great toilet book.
And then in Japan, it's from back to front because they read it the other way.
Yes.
Yeah, I am reading another book. Well, we're not talking about that book, but it is called just Toilet specifically, and it does have various polls.
It's called just Toilet.
Talk about snap poll.
Oh, snap poll.
Yeah,
how different toilet etiquettes, and obviously it changes culture to culture, but. What about now that we're on it,
mm-hmm.
Quinn?
Yes. Ready?
Are you front or back? What is it?
I reach around from the back, then I wipe towards the back. I'm not wiping towards the other part of my body. Wipe away.
Wipe away.
But I'm also crazy in that I know this is insane, but I kind of stand up a bit and squat and do it. I know some people do it in the bowl, but I don't know how they put their arm.
Well, you can't. You can't get.
You have to lift a cheek, and I stand and squat, and I'm especially in a public bathroom, they just see me my legs flexing, and I'm so that's what I do.
The U-shaped toilet seats that we talked about all those episodes ago did not.
That's all very applicable.
They're not serving you.
No. Because
you need that to be turned around.
I didn't even think you could reach in that way. But I don't know why in my head I'm that's not going to happen. But I also have problems with the way I wipe. Sometimes I won't people will get the toilet paper and they'll I'll flatten all the pieces of paper. I'll just like ball it.
Well, that's the other question this is our snap poll for today. Are you a crumpler or are you a folder?
Crumpled. But I think I've been thinking maybe I should
not very efficient.
I know it's not.
Yeah.
It's not clean.
How are you going to wet that with your portable bidet squirt gun?
Here's what I do. When I go home from a day, I take a shower. I have a loofah in my shower. That's just for the ass. And I'm not kidding. I use it every day.
Good.
Also,
okay.
I had a cyst back there once.
Wow.
Oh, you told me about
this is getting really personal.
Yeah, what did you want me to say?
No, you
know.
told me about this cyst thing once, and I don't know if we.
I don't know if I want to know that.
We talked about menstrual painting, you guys.
I'm really grateful that now I know you have a specific bum loofah, so that if Christian and I ever come and stay with you, I know to not use your loofah.
I wouldn't tell you because there's two.
Oh.
Yeah.
I wouldn't tell you which one they are.
Well, I just won't use either of them.
Then I'll do other things.
It's unsanitary.
I'll do other things to the shower that you won't know. I'll just make so you don't want to shower at all, and then I'll be like, now who's gross? I also really love the snap judgment and that snap poll idea.
There's snap judgments too.
Snap poll. I like snap poll.
Snap poll is not scientific.
Yeah.
Don't rely upon
but
it.
I like snap poll because I'm just gonna start going up to people in the street like snap poll. You ball it or fold it, But I have been thinking that I should be folding it because I did it the other day and I was like, I think this is better.
This is better the way.
But balling it is kind of wild.
It's gonna be your pillow talk with your wife tonight. You got to go home and ask her. I mean, do you even know that about her?
People get divorced over that very issue.
I'm sure.
Does she know that about you? Does she know that you're a baller?
She knows I want to say something. I want to swear, but she knows I'm a baller. I drive a minivan. Of course, I'm a baller.
Baller in a different sense, right?
We can move on to another snap poll. What's your favorite part of Rose George's book? Go.
I liked the part when I didn't read it.
Okay,
that's my favorite part.
You haven't read it,
yeah.
Kelsey, you read it.
It's been a while since I've opened it, but I love Rose George's just candor with her
to the TED
ability. Talk. That's good. You deserve a round of applause.
And I listened to
that.
the TED Talk years ago before I even knew about all this.
Wow.
So we are going to listen to a snippet of her TED Talk in a few minutes, but you were going to say?
I just really love Rose George has the greatest way, and you'll hear it in her TED Talk, of bringing toilet issues to the forefront being tactful and humorous, right? And so that's just scattered all throughout her book. You can tell that she's really passionate about this issue.
There are sections in the book where she starts doing stand up.
It feels like that. You're cracking up funny, but really,
no, she does a great job.
I'm sure.
It's packed full of statistics. Like, I mean, I think there's the end notes are crazy. I mean, so much research went into this. I just want to pull out a few little snippets of info. That this is where I found. I think in the last podcast we're talking about lack of sanitation in the United States, which a lot of people don't talk about, but and she has the citation in the book. 1.7 million people in the United States have no sanitation, which is kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
You think where are they? Well, last podcast we talked about Puerto Rico, right? But and then also she's got some great information regarding the history of toilets. Like, do you happen to know where the word toilet came from? Why do we?
France.
Where did it come? How did you know that?
Just sounded French.
Toilet. What does it mean in French?
Wasn't the first toilet French? Didn't we go off on a fun fact?
It's like, mademoiselle.
So
you want to take a pee?
So it says here the word toilet in French. I don't know if I don't speak French, but it means a cloth. I guess a cloth was used. Speaking of balling, or toilet was a word that used for the cloth that you used to clean yourself, right? And then, and I guess, and it was common both in London and in Paris. I guess in Paris they would garde loo. I guess when they throw the chamber pot out the window into the streets, they would give everybody a warning.
Thank goodness.
And they would say, "Gardez-vous," like what, watch out below. And
it's like in golf, and they're like 4.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
How considerate.
And that's where the word, we use the word loo in our name, ZuLoo, right? Like you refer to a toilet as a loo.
Right.
That's where it comes from. It comes from that statement.
Can we throw chamber pots out the window? I want to try that.
I want to know how that goes at your complex.
My complex.
Your housing
I live in
complex.
A storage unit.
No. Your apartment.
Yeah.
It's not an apartment. They're like condos.
No, it's an apartment.
Okay, your apartment complex.
But it's a modern apartment, which means apparently every apartment is luxury.
Right.
Which means
that's why I want to know how this goes.
But no, I'd love to just toss it out the window and say like, for the loo.
But she also has some great history in here about where, because back in the mid 1800s, cholera outbreaks were very common in big cities, and a lot of people died. It was like a big thing, right? So, but how the birthplace of modern day flush toilet sanitation was traced back to an engineer by the name of John Snow, who somehow determined that the cholera was being spread through the contamination of the water, and that's what was making everybody sick. Before that, they thought, it floats through the air, and so close the windows, or the black cat passes you on the street, and so that these sort of
more super.
Wait, sounds like our
That's what Game of Thrones is about. Jon Snow was trying to figure out.
I don't know if it's the same Jon Snow, but
I don't know,
maybe a different guy. But
there's a wall.
But anyway, he figured out that it was traveling through the water, somehow, and then
cookie.
And I guess there was a main water pump in the middle of London. Everybody went and got their water, and so he removed the water handle from the pump, and that was sort of, after that. And I always thought, well, why did he remove the handle? Was it because of people were touching the handle and passing it that way? That's what I thought initially.
But it was to stop the water supply.
But it was just purely like, don't take this water because the water supply had been contaminated with everybody's crap,
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to like, we talk about clean water and that's important. But yeah, if you're getting, you could have this really nice pump of, fresh water supply, but if you got poop coming into it, then everybody's gonna die, right? So anyway, I just thought that was, lots of interesting historical facts.
Yeah. Tidbits of things you don't think about too, right? Yeah.
Well, of course, I just never ever really walked around, and I'm like, when did the toilet? Who made that? It just doesn't really cross your mind. Right. Some of these inventions. But of course, it's one that once you realize like someone invented it, like, well, I wouldn't have ever thought about this. I use this every single day, and I never thought about who made it. Like we all praise Steve Jobs. Why not Steve Toilet? What's his name?
Jack Sim.
Jack Sim.
Mr. Toilet.
Yeah.
Or John
Snow.
John Snow.
Yeah, but nobody hears that name. Like, not that he invented the toilet, but he was like instrumental. Like these Victorian engineers kind of like, hey, we need to fix this. And that's why, lots of investment went into like London's sewer system, which is still in place today. It's still an operation, thankfully.
Yes.
And you don't get cholera outbreaks anymore.
Yeah, not in London, at least.
At least not in London, right?
Yeah,
other
places.
Parts
of the world, for sure.
But yeah, if your wastewater treatment plant ever goes down, then you're gonna get to experience that firsthand.
Be fun.
But why don't we listen to Rose George's TED Talk? I'm just going to play a quick 4-minute clip, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's play it.
Let's talk dirty. A few years ago, oddly enough, I needed the bathroom. And I found a public bathroom, and I went into the stall and I prepared to do what I'd done most of my life. Use the toilet, flush the toilet, forget about the toilet. And for some reason that day, instead, I asked myself a question. And it was, where does this stuff go? And with that question, I found myself plunged into the world of sanitation. There's more coming. Sanitation, toilets, and poop. And I have yet to emerge. And that's because it's such an enraging, yet engaging place to be. To go back to that toilet. It wasn't a particularly fancy toilet. Wasn't as nice as this one from the World Toilet Organization. That's the other WTO. But it had a lockable door, it had privacy, it had water, it had soap, so I could wash my hands, and I did because I'm a woman, and we do that. But that day, when I asked that question, I learned something, and that was that I'd grown up thinking that a toilet like that was my right, when in fact, it's a privilege. 2.5 billion people worldwide have no adequate toilet. They don't have a bucket or a box. 40% of the world with no adequate toilet. And they have to do what this little boy is doing by the side of the Mumbai Airport Expressway, which is called open defecation, or poo-pooing in the open. And he does that every day. And every day, probably, that guy in the picture walks on by. Because he sees that little boy, but he doesn't see him. But he should, because the problem with all that poop lying around is that poop carries passengers. 50 communicable diseases like to travel in human shit. All those things, the eggs, the cysts, the bacteria, the viruses, all those can travel in 1 gram of human feces. How? Well, that little boy will not have washed his hands. He's barefoot. He'll run back into his house, and he will contaminate his drinking water and his food and his environment with whatever diseases he may be carrying by fecal particles that are on his fingers and feet. In what I call the flushed and plumbed world that most of us in this room are lucky to live in, the most common symptoms associated with those diseases, diarrhea, is now a bit of a joke. It's the runs, the Hershey squirts, the squits. Where I come from, we call it Delhi belly as a legacy of empire. But if you search for a stock photo of diarrhea in a leading photo image agency, this is the picture that you come up with. Still not sure about the bikini. And here's another image of diarrhea. This is Marie Saley, 9 months old. You can't see her because she's buried under that green grass in a little village in Liberia, because she died in 3 days from diarrhea. The Hershey squirts, the runs, a joke. And that's her dad. But she wasn't alone that day because 4,000 other children died of diarrhea. And they do every day. Diarrhea is the second biggest killer of children worldwide. And you've probably been asked to care about things like HIV/AIDS or TB or measles. But diarrhea kills more children than all those 3 things put together. It's a very potent weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah, so comments.
Well,
impressions.
One comment said weapons of mass destruction at the end. And is that what we were looking for in Iraq? Sorry, it's a dumb joke. Political.
We didn't find it. So,
but no, that is wild though. It's just something you don't think about as far as diarrhea. Because she's right. Because she does kind of like say that she says the joke versions of diarrhea, like the Hershey squirts and all that. And it's like it's this thing that like
it's not a big deal.
I know guys who that's like every time they go to the bathroom, it's like it's like liquid for them. And like, you know how it is. I'm just eating wings, and like, but for other people, it's like life threatening. And it's still hard for me to wrap my head around that. That like that can kill you.
Yeah,
I don't even understand how it does. Does it just dehydrate you?
Yeah, I think that's part of it for sure.
Well, for children that have those viruses and bacteria in their systems, they can't. Yeah, they it's a constant diarrhea, and so they get dehydrated and it's
malnourished
and malnourished. So all the especially babies, they're vulnerable for if they can't keep water in, they're dead. Right. So that's why that's the big killer, right? But small children and other people as well. So to me, it's the statistics that sort of grab me, because we are obviously in a world today hypersensitive on viruses and pandemics and all of that, but we tend to we're so hyper focused on COVID at the moment, but we ignore everything else that was there before COVID and will be there after COVID. I mean, I'm not downplaying COVID at all, but it's still, when it's amazing. I mean, well, let's say we got the whole world is fixated on diarrhea and sanitation,
right?
They are on COVID. Holy crap! That we would everybody in the whole planet would have a toilet. Not look at the resources that have been marshaled for vaccines and for masks and hand sanitizer and all of it, right? It's like, holy crap, we could have built 2.5 billion toilets, and we'd be done. It'd be like, great, everybody's got a toilet.
But if they treated it like they did COVID, we'd have toilet deniers.
True.
People being like, the toilets don't.
I don't need a toilet. Well, no,
toilets don't exist.
Well, no, I mean, in all seriousness, and actually, as far as deniers, I mean, there are in India cultural things where even though if they're provided a toilet, they're still like, no, I prefer to go out in the open. It's more more natural.
They know.
I'm more in touch with nature, and that it's a cultural thing. But then when they show them that, oh, look, well, because, where you go in nature, you're, downstream, somebody's bathing and taking their water and you're killing them. Yeah. Right. Then they say, okay, now I see why it's something that needs to be contained yeah. So yeah, you bring up that point, but yeah, as far as, to me, the statistics don't lie. Right.
No, that's it's still staggering when they say 2.5 billion like that. I don't even it's crazy to even try to think about that, how many people that is, and how much everyone's lives would just improve a little bit if you had a toilet. I mean, it's just the conversation we've been having about what it's like to when you're forced to pee out in the wilderness when you're on a road trip versus when you get to a gas station, and it feels like you're in a palace when you get to an actual gas station. So for those people to have their lives changed that drastically that, I mean, I can't even imagine what that would do for you and your confidence.
You've been talking, Kelsey, to some of the, we got ZuLoo got a report back from India not too long ago. You've been looking. I think you're reading some of those stories, or
reading some of the case studies from the.
Did any of those stand out to you, or
focused for sure? I'm having a difficult time remembering the family's name, but I remember the slum. The description of the slum that this family lived in was near their dumping area. So not only did they have just garbage, right, super close by, but that was being mixed with raw sewage, the raw sewage that the slum dwellers, their local community was just also putting out into there. And so the case study, right, was reporting when the monsoon season comes, I mean, you just imagine how crazy that is if you've ever even had, I mean, this is the poorest comparison I could really make, but
do it.
You've ever had your trash bag open up in your trash can and spilled some liquid in there, or had it rained? Have you ever had that in your big ol'...
See, I was thinking you were going to say if you're taking a trash bag to a dumpster and then it splits open before you get there.
Yeah. Okay. That's better. That's better. Imagine an industrial dumpster and how nasty that is, right? Because it's just sticky and gunky and gross. And
imagine it's a monsoon. It's a storm. But then
that's tipped over, and the heaviest rainstorm you can imagine comes through, and everybody's been pooping in it for the last bit. I mean, that's the condition that this family.
Like you're holding on to a tree trying to like stay up because the wind's hitting you so fast, and then a piece of shit just slams into your face. It's like how does it? Like everything's bad.
Everything is bad. I certainly hope that doesn't happen to anybody out there, but I'm sure that is a reality.
Yeah, I mean, because you did, I'm just thinking of we lost 2 water wells last year because of floods, and some of the pictures that they showed us were like, they were in little rafts and boats, and the power lines were like, they were in the boats, and the power lines were like even with the boats. That's how high the water was.
Wow.
We're talking like 10 feet.
Yeah.
And when I see and I think it's a big problem whenever it floods anywhere. You've got wastewater treatment plants that spill over, because there's nowhere else for it to go. And I think a lot of coastal areas like the Mississippi Gulf Coast and all of that, I mean, that they run into that all the time. I mean, not all the time, but whenever there is like, a hurricane that comes through and all that. But anyway, big potential mess, right?
It's a big potential mess. And it's just, I mean, it's like...
Well, it's related to poverty too, right? Because if it's like all of these... they don't have any alternative. There's not a economical solution.
Right.
They can't go to Home Depot and get, let's go get a toilet and hook it up, to the system, because there is no system, right?
There's can't even go to the bodega, right? The like corner store or your convenience store. That doesn't exist.
Right. They don't have Jon Snow.
They don't have Jon Snow to tell them.
But it's a problem.
Yeah, one that ZuLoo's working to remedy.
But anyway, so that's I think Rose just does a great job highlighting the issue, and I think we'll put a link to her the full TED Talk, because if you don't have time to read the book, the TED Talk I think it's totally 12 minutes 12, 13 minutes, and it does a great job highlighting that, and that's really what what ZuLoo is all about. We're all about helping try to solve that crisis, and or if not, I mean, not that we're like able to solve it ourselves, but certainly bring awareness to the issue. And the great thing is there's lots of other people that are interested in it too, and
we're each doing our small part, though. That's how things get done, is that if we each do our small part, big impacts can be made. And that's what's important, right? That's what ZuLoo's trying to do. I mean, just in December, these case studies that I'm reading, or that I was reading from our team SAPET over there, 30 toilets went in. That might seem insignificant to us, but think that 30 families, that's 30 families. It's not just 30 people. 30 families now have access to.
It's not insignificant. I mean, just imagine 30 toilets in your house.
There's not 30 toilets in your house.
Like, it'd be crazy. You could have 600 people over and everyone would be okay.
Yeah,
like that's a lot of toilets.
It's a lot of toilets. Absolutely. And the 3 bore wells that we also contributed to now serve communities that have 300 plus people in them. So that's bringing clean water to them and significantly decreasing disease. So all the ripple effects, right, that installing a toilet can do, or funding a bore well, it's a lot bigger than it may seem. So we're not doing it alone, and we're making more progress than we may initially even think.
All right.
So if you like this podcast, be sure to send us your email. And what do they get if they send us their email?
Yeah.
Kelsey?
Oh my gosh. Send us one email. You get a free stress reliever toy, poop emoji, or toilet.
Wow.
You can request a preference if you wish, or we'll just choose for you.
Yeah, they are flexible. So
they are flexible.
Because you need something to grip and squeeze while you're having one of those Taco Bell dumps. So we got
stressful moments.
Yeah, have you been using yours?
Yeah, I got one in the car. Because it can be intense in there.
Yes.
So I have it there because, I've had moments where you have to turn the radio off because you have to concentrate so hard on like breathe in, breathe out.
Have to use your big gulp.
No. It's like for that when you need to dump, and you're just like your whole body's clenched. I've like screamed in my car before because I was clenching my body so hard because I was right next to my house. I was like, ah! It was a lot, but I made it.
Glad you can express yourself that way, Quinn.
Thank you. I'm an artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you got this is my canvas.
This is your canvas.
Yeah.
Send us 3 emails though. Your email and 2 friends' emails, and we will send you a copy of Rose George's book for free.
The Big Necessity, and it's good read.
Best read. Thanks for joining us on today's podcast. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the ZuLoo Poodcast. Follow us on social media at our links in the show notes below. To learn more, visit our website, ZuLoo.org. If you liked the podcast, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. For even more ZuLoo fun, send us an email with your toilet stories to podcast@ZuLoo.com for a chance to be featured on the podcast. This episode of the ZuLoo Poodcast is sponsored by ZuLoo Inc., a benefit corporation dedicated to the goal of universal access to toilets, hygiene, clean water and sanitation through the power of social enterprise. Learn more at ZuLoo.com.